And in the South Bay, a giant crack in the earth almost a half-mile long. Good evening, I'm Dave McElhatton.
And I'm Wendy Dakuta. We have a warning from the police tonight in San Francisco. Stay away from the Embarcadero Freeway. Because of the earthquake, structural engineers now consider that freeway unsafe. It may even have to be demolished. The police have closed the area below it to both traffic and pedestrians. Eyewitness News reporter Tomas Roman inspected the structure today with the experts.
The quake of '89 has seriously damaged the Embarcadero Freeway. Loose concrete from stress fractures have caused the police and Samtrans to close the area to pedestrians and traffic.
First of all, we're worried about any spalls that may come down from the cracked concrete. We have a lot of pedestrians here in the area, and we're concerned with aftershocks. And we're just taking the prudent way out. We want to remove all the cars and people from it.
The Embarcadero Freeway runs from the Bay Bridge to Main, Washington, and Broadway streets. The quake caused serious damage to the portion of the roadway that sits in front of the ferry building by Mission Street. Ron Mays is one of several structural engineers who is responsible for inspecting all the bridges and roadways that access them. He says the Embarcadero, also known as the 480, was just seconds away from collapsing, just like the Cypress structure did in Oakland.
If it is similar to Cypress, another 5 or 10 second shaking and would have been a collapse of this.
This group of engineers is going to make recommendations to the city whether to repair or demolish the roadway. For that reason, they're looking at it very closely.
We're seeing a fair amount of damage in several places, particularly further to the south.
Engineers say they're worried about more than just how the Embarcadero Freeway itself has weathered the earthquake. Here by the supporting column, for example, you look down and you can see that the land has actually settled. In this particular spot, as much as 6 inches. Signs of ground settlement are everywhere, especially around several support columns. Engineers say these steel plates are reinforcing brackets placed on the supports about 7 years ago. They were part of a retrofitting plan that was to also include the Cypress structure. They may have prevented the Embarcadero Freeway from collapsing. The Embarcadero is steeped in controversy. 3 years ago, former Mayor Dianne Feinstein sponsored a ballot proposition that called for the highway to be torn down. The voters said, let it stand. Now the quake of '89 may have completed the job that the mayor started. Reporting live, I'm Tomas Roman.
What kind of timetable are we talking about here, Tomas, before we have a decision?
Wendy, I spoke to the engineers just about an hour ago before they went into a meeting to basically confer and find out what they were going to do about it. Unofficially, that's unofficially, the engineer told me that they didn't think, or he didn't think, that it could be repaired. He figured that the damage was just too great to be repaired. That's not the same as saying it has to be torn down. So then, and that's just a recommendation.
So then what would the chances be that they could shore up the Embarcadero Freeway and make it earthquake safe?
There is a possibility that they can actually shore it up. There was a man in here from San Antonio, a major contractor. He told me that, he didn't tell me the name of his company because they were going to bid on the job, but he told me that his job was to basically shore up things like this, make them earthquake safe. So I guess they're getting contractors in from all over the country and bidding on the job to see if they can in fact convince the city that they can repair the freeway and make it earthquake safe.
Okay, thanks an awful lot, Tomas. You're doing a great job on this story.
The Embarcadero Freeway, just one of several problem spots in the Bay Area's highway system tonight. San Francisco's Central Freeway has also been closed since the earthquake hit because of structural damage there, and for a while today, the Benicia Bridge was also closed. Any one of those problems can mean more than just tangled traffic. Massive headaches is what it means if you add them to the numerous bridge and road problems already into effect, and it adds up to a chaotic commute at best. Jerry Grant is up and above the mess. He's in Chopper 5. He joins us now with this live report. Jerry.
Good evening, Mac. You mentioned the Central Freeway. That's going to be a big problem in the commute because it's the Gough Street and Franklin Street on-ramps into the city, and that too, double-decker, danger of collapsing. We're calling it the quake commute. We had a small taste of it today, but most people stayed home. We're just expecting it to be a nightmare on Monday, and it was a semi-nightmare today. Most of the problems this morning in the East Bay, Interstate 80, Emeryville, on back to the Golden Gate Fields, backed up, moving into one lane, and across the 880, the Nimitz causing a lot of problems, backed up onto the San Mateo on-ramp, and of course now in Oakland, the 980. We're using a lot of numbers here. That's the freeway that connects 580 to the Nimitz. The folks coming in from Concord and Walnut Creek, they're going to have problems now too. Now take a look down there. We're over the Richmond area, the area coming in from the Richmond Bridge, and this is going to be a problem too because when folks come home, they're going to come right over the Golden Gate Bridge and through 101 North and across the Richmond Bridge. But now they're going to have to wind their way down Cutting Boulevard through Richmond. They're going to have to go through a series of stoplights because 580 out here has not been completed. That's going to be the problem coming home the north way. We checked down south a while ago, the San Mateo Bridge. It is moving smoothly, but 101 is bound to be backed up going south and going across the 92 and then back up the 880 on the Nimitz. So anywhere you look, the commute is going to be a nightmare, and it could only get worse.
It began before the sun came up, and for many people in the East Bay, ended quickly in a massive backup. The volume of the quake commute was relatively small, but the problems were large. I-80 South backed up all the way from Emeryville to Golden Gate Fields. 4 lanes nearly 2 miles long working their way into a single lane. The Nimitz backed up from the Oakland border all the way to the San Mateo Bridge. With the sun came even more problems. A crack discovered on Interstate 980, which connects 580 to the Nimitz. All traffic routed off into Oakland on 14th Street while Caltrans workers inspect the damage.
It seems the smartest way into the city today was public transportation. BART, Muni, and Caltrans all running and all running well. But to get from the East Bay into the city, the smartest way driving-wise was down there, the Golden Gate Bridge. By taking 580 to the Richmond Bridge, across, and then 101 south, you had smooth sailing across the Golden Gate into the city of San Francisco.
Left the house at about 8 o'clock, made it into the city, 8:30 to the office. Very light coming over the bridge, matter of fact, later than normal.
The key today seemed to be public transportation. BART flowed smoothly.
Well, I parked at the West Oakland BART station. Took the BART train over with no problems.
The trains were pretty much empty. You know, it wasn't like a standard commute. Probably be real busy next week, but it's pretty slow for right now.
In the city, the biggest problem was the Goff and Franklin ramps to the 101 freeway. Caltrans shut them down this afternoon, causing a huge backup. Structural damage was found on the freeway.
And we are back here live right now on Chopper 5. I got to explain to everyone that the thing you'll have to do is consider using BART. It seems to be running smoothly. The freeways are bound to be backed up, or Muni, Caltrans, any of the transportation systems into the city. One other hint from the East Bay, there are ferries now operating from Jack London Waterfront into the city. They'll cost you $4. The thing we got to think about now is to draw together, to be very considerate. A lot of intersections still not working. They are 4-way stops. Stop for everybody. Keep it together, and we'll get through this. The quake commute will really start on Monday, and we will report on it. I'm Jerry Grant, live over Richmond in Chopper 5.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Wendy?
Federal emergency officials are already arriving in some of the areas hardest hit by the earthquake. The town of Watsonville is just 20 miles from the epicenter. The earthquake has left hundreds of people there homeless. Liz Gonzalez joins us with a live report on the relief efforts. Liz.
Wendy, the homeless are getting anxious and they're also getting angry. New estimates from the city are that 200 homes have fallen off their foundations, and they say that hundreds more still have to be inspected. It seems the only thing that homeless people can do is camp out with other victims and wait. Imagine having a family and living and eating outdoors in makeshift camps. Now imagine more than 1,000 people forced to live this way. It's no wonder people are asking for more help than just a cup of coffee and a cot.
All these people are going to be street people, and they're going to be living in the parking lot, and then sooner or later the city's going to come along and say, hey, you can't do that, because we've got new housing. But yet, you know how many people are going to be in line to get in those houses?
City workers and volunteers are concentrating on clearing out the devastated downtown business district and restoring power and water in the community. This is consuming 100% of their resources, but they say that reconstruction of houses and buildings is part of phase 2 in the rebuilding plan.
Have no place Where are they going to live? And rents are very high in this area. We do have subsidized housing. The city's worked hard on getting as many units of that as we can, and we've got the only women's and children's shelter in the county. But you're talking about a number of rooms, not anything that's adequate.
Adding to the desperate state here in Watsonville, powerful aftershocks overnight caused even more damage to homes and lives already scarred by the earthquake.
When I walked in, I noticed that the house was more up. On this corner here, when I walked in, I felt it more up, and then as you walk into the house, you feel it more lower towards the other end.
First, I awake and I told my mom, "Mom, is that an earthquake?" And she said, "Yeah, it's an earthquake. Just stay calm. The car is safer than the house."
Nora will be like many other children and adults tonight. They're going to be spending the night outside for the third night in a row. That is what has the homeless people so upset. The shelters are full tonight. The 3 shelters set up here in Watsonville. There are more homeless people than there are shelter beds. The city insists it is doing what it can, and they're hoping for federal assistance to help them solve this housing crisis in Watsonville. Reporting live from Watsonville, I'm Liz Gonzalez. Wendy, back to you.
Okay, thanks an awful lot, Liz. A lot of people are going to be in shelters again tonight. The Red Cross, I believe, was it 30 shelters? I think we had talked to someone earlier
we
today.
really lost track because they're opening as many as they can as fast as they can, so there's no way of knowing. But what they're doing is moving as quickly as they can to meet the need, and they've done an incredible job.
They certainly have.
Just amazing. You depend on them, but they always come through. We've been following a very personal drama in Santa Cruz, the story of one young woman trapped in a collapsed building on the Pacific Avenue Mall. It's been a very sad story. Her friends hoping that she would be found alive, and that was not to be. Manny Ramos joins us now live for that story. Man?
Well, the research is over, but the recovery is beginning. Now, here's the latest quake toll here in Santa Cruz County. 260 people homeless. 3 blocks of shops here in the Pacific Garden Mall have either been badly damaged or destroyed. And now 6 people confirmed dead. The last known quake victim was found. Her body was finally uncovered from beneath 2 tons of bricks. The search effort for Robin Ortiz had created such a controversy that the mayor had to make an announcement to the media and hundreds of residents.
She did not suffer. You need to know that. She would have been killed instantly. A large beam fell, and she never would have known what happened.
Ortiz was an employee of the company and was in the building when the quake hit. The roof and the 2nd floor came down on her.
We did everything we could. We had officers on their hands and knees in there the day of the quake, listening, calling. We brought dogs in 3 times a day, and nothing. They're just nothing.
But the search had taken so long that friends had protested. Some were arrested after rushing through a police line. Today, there was sorrow, but some relief.
I mean, there's always the miracle case of the baby found in the wreckage 5 days later or whatever. So there's always hope until you find the body.
Santa Cruz had been hit by an aftershock early this morning. It was strong enough to cause chimneys to fall, but no injuries. The governor toured the mall area this afternoon. 3 or 4 blocks of buildings may have to be leveled.
The displacement of the businesses is going to be very severe and have I'm afraid, a very significant impact upon the community in terms of the economy and in terms of unemployment.
Situation very grim here in Santa Cruz County. We have people who have lost their jobs, people who have lost their homes, and more importantly, 6 people have lost their lives. Reporting live in Santa Cruz, I'm Manuel Ramos.
All right, Manny, and certainly the mayor is to be commended. She did a fine job of diffusing a very difficult situation.
And she did do that. It was very tense over here. You have to remember the kind of emotions people are going through. She did come out, she calmed everybody down, and moments after it was over, the same people who were very angry, who had risked arrest and fighting with police, those same people just, it was like a burden lift from them, and they admitted that everything had been done to try to get her out.
So perhaps the healing is starting to take place. Thanks, Manny. The hardest hit area in the San Francisco region, the Marina District, of course. We've been showing you that. Thousands of people have been left homeless in the wake of the earthquake. Hank Plant standing by live in the Marina District with the latest on that. Hank?
Well, Mac, behind me you see this strange process still continuing. At least 1,000 Marina residents displaced from their homes going through this strange process where they have to take a number, stand in line, find out if their homes are standing, their apartments are standing. They came over to these little tables. These volunteers check the list to see if their homes are habitable. The building inspectors have been going through all day to see if people can get back in their homes. A lot of times you can only get in for about 15 minutes and get your possessions and then get out. Most of the area is still not habitable at all. It is not a system that Marina residents are happy with. but that's the way it's been around here for the last couple of days. Things have been tense for 2 days now between city officials and thousands of marina residents displaced from their homes. After last night's aftershocks, there was no getting back in.
So how do you get there? You don't even know where the hell you are. And you can't walk through, you can't drive through. What the hell are you telling us?
City building inspectors have to determine which structures are safe. It's a tedious house-by-house process. At an angry meeting on the Marina Green this afternoon, Mayor Art Agnos offered a solution.
The detailed answers to your questions will be available in an hour and 15 minutes. But again, Buffalo Bay Marina Middle School.
Thousands of residents now have to stand in long lines, then take tickets like at the deli counter and be escorted home. Even then, they might not be allowed to remain. At least 8 buildings are beyond repair. So it's more nights staying with friends or in the shelter set up at the Marina Middle School. How are you living?
Dirty. You feel like, you know, if you could just get a shower and, you know, there's plenty of food, it seems like, most of the time, but, you know, it's hard with the little one, too, keeping them clean and, you know, keeping them clothed, and, you know, there's no place to wash your clothes.
It's not a life that the upper-class marina residents are used to, but earthquakes are equal opportunity disasters. Well, you look at the expressions on some of these people's faces behind me, and you can see that it's been a very stressful couple of days since the quake hit here. Not going to get smoothed out for a while. They're really standing in line to see what their futures hold, whether they have a future here in the marina. You already hear people talking about trying to get out, get a different apartment, and not even deal with this anymore in the future. All right, let's talk about power. What happens once they get back to their residences? What's going to be there? Water may be available in the marina in the next day or so, but it might not be drinkable for the next week or so. That's one thing. The big problem, of course, is gas. Remember, this is the area that suffered that terrible fire. It burned 12 buildings. It killed 3 people, all because of gas explosions that followed the earthquake. The chief of police, Frank Jordan, told me today that he doesn't expect to see gas restored in the marina gas service for the next 2 to 12 weeks. The mayor, Art Agnos, said he sees none, quote, for the foreseeable future. Now, the mayor did say that he thinks that electricity could be restored in a couple of days, but that might not happen because PG&E isn't going to hook up electricity if there's any problem of gas leaks. They really go together. It's going to be a long process out here. Reporting live from the marina, I'm Hank Plant. Mac, Wendy, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Hank.
And coming up, our earthquake coverage continues. Doug Murphy will have a live report from the rescue effort at the Cypress structure in Oakland.
And nearby, the plight of senior citizens forced out of their homes by the earthquake.
Well, I was on the bus and thought we blew a tire. Turns out, I guess there was a huge earthquake. The bus was swerving. The bus stopped. I looked outside. This is what I saw. I jumped off the bus, ran over, and pulled these people out of their cars.
Hi, Ed. Hi, Brian. Sizzler for lunch? You bet. Good.
Sizzler introduces 3 new grilled lunch sandwiches, so why eat out of a bag or a styrofoam box?
Hi, Brian. Hi, Ed. Hi, Don. Sizzler for lunch again? Yep. Good.
Try our Santa Fe chicken sandwich, marinated fajita style, the Chicken Club with Swiss and bacon, or grilled sausage and onions. Hurry to Sizzler for new grilled lunch sandwiches.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Mike.
Sizzler for lunch. Good.
The earthquake left many of your neighbors without food or shelter.
Here's a way you can help. The American Red Cross provides emergency services to people hit hardest by the quake, but they can't do it alone.
KPIX and 100 stations across the country have joined the Red Cross in a special relief campaign.
Please send your checks payable to the American Red Cross to Heart of the Bay Earthquake Relief Fund, P.O. Box 26555, San Francisco, California, 94126.
A lot of senior citizens who live in hotels in Oakland were forced out of their rooms by the earthquake. The Red Cross is taking care of more than 100 people who had to leave. One Red Cross shelter has been set up in the Martin Luther King School, and officials are saying that the number of people needing help is growing as more buildings are inspected and condemned.
The most horrifying story that we've been following in the East Bay, the I-880 collapse. Doug Murphy has been covering that story. He's in Oakland Live now with the latest. Doug?
Dave, Oakland's Mayor Lionel Wilson was here just a short time ago. He said that they have totaled up, they have an estimate of the damage here of $1.3 billion. That's public and private. It does not include the Cypress structure behind us. That would be handled completely differently. Getting a better handle tonight on what the fatalities might be there. They've gone through and they've mapped out about 3/4 of the sections. They say that in those areas they have located 27 autos that have at least one victim inside, or those autos are too damaged to tell. But 27 automobiles that have at least one victim, or they're too damaged to tell. There are, though, another 9 sections that are what they call pancake. They're flat down. The top is flat down on the bottom. They haven't gotten in. They have no idea how many cars are in there. They have no idea how many victims in there. Of course, tonight the real job will be to try and assess the human toll of this tragedy from the earthquake. That's been the job they've been doing here all day. A blue body bag rolled from the Cypress Expressway at 18th Street, one of the grim legacies of Tuesday's killer quake. On the elevated freeway, the pictures nearly speak for themselves. A 500-ton slab of concrete that separated and fell 20 feet to the lanes below is chewed up into gravel. A 3-inch diameter reinforcement bar twisted and snapped like a twig. And the vehicles, like this one, unlucky enough to be on the Cypress Tuesday, can hardly be recognized. Rescuers say it is a common sight for vehicles trapped in the bottom deck.
Total number of vehicles that have been removed from the area is in excess of 45.
All along the elevated, the search for vehicles and victims went on. Cranes were used to poke holes in the railing for a look. Nothing was found. The letters NV, no vehicle, were painted on the wall. And as the search went on, the question why it collapsed was asked over and over. The decks had been reinforced after the Southern California quake of '71. But the next step, tying the deck to the pillars, was never done. A step that might have made a difference Tuesday.
So the job was left partially undone and just sitting there since 1982?
Well, that's true.
If the columns were reinforced, would the bridge have held?
If the columns had been treated, and that treatment includes encasement, it would have had a much better chance of surviving.
While the mood here is somber, there is some good news. While no total count was made, fewer cars than expected were being found. And the World Series may have made the difference.
A lot of people went home early to watch the ball game. It's probably a lighter load than we would expect at 5 o'clock on a weekday.
And once again, this is the shot at 19th Street here on the Cypress as work crews are up there with the cranes. They were up there a moment ago with cutting torches. They're trying to cut away some of the railing. The estimate early on was that they may find as many as 200 cars up there. As you heard in that story, 45 to 47 have been taken off of here now. There are quite a few more on the bottom, but I don't think we'll reach that 200 total. Wendy, for now, that's the story here at the Cypress in Oakland. Back to you.
Okay, and that is good news. Thank you, Doug. There are some shocking revelations tonight about the condition of the Cypress Street Viaduct prior to the quake. Eyewitness News reporter Dave Bryan has been looking into the charges that Caltrans knew for years the freeway was vulnerable to quake damage. Dave.
Well, Wendy, Caltrans said today in no uncertain terms that nobody ever thought that the Cypress Viaduct would collapse as it did. But an East Bay engineer who studied the freeway says it was a disaster waiting to happen. And the paltry steel reinforcement in the columns supporting the upper deck, he says, were like blades of grass.
Pleasant Hill engineer David Rogers says the failure of a handful of steel bars like this, woefully inadequate, is directly responsible for the Cypress Street Viaduct disaster.
This is a piece of A36 structural steel, which was out of the central portion of the lower column where the catastrophic failure occurred during the earthquake on Tuesday evening. There were 4 of these bars coming up through the bottom of the column, and that's all the shear resistance that structure offered to that earthquake motion. This wasn't there for an earthquake.
No kidding.
Yeah, this is like a blade of grass.
Using a diagram of the Cypress structure, Rogers explains what went wrong.
Very little actual concrete and steel running between here and here, so that when the earthquake shock wave hits this thing, these things simply just cracked and sheared off, and down came the whole mass onto itself.
Caltrans took Rogers up to look at the structure today. He first studied the Cypress structure more than a decade ago, and he says even then it was a textbook example of outdated and inadequate freeway support construction.
Well, it was 1978 when I looked at it as a graduate student in civil engineering, and at that time we recognized that the structure did not have a lot of shear capacity or shear reinforcement in the longitudinal direction, and then it looked like a structure that could very well pancake down in the event of a sustained earthquake tremor.
Once considered the state-of-the-art in freeway engineering, the Cypress Viaduct, the oldest double-deck freeway in California, was featured on this 1958 magazine cover. But by the early 70s, it was considered obsolete. The Cypress support pillars contained only vertical steel rods to help hold it together, leaving it vulnerable to complete collapse, like the diagram on the left. Later, more modern freeway columns were wrapped in spiral steel rods, holding the core intact, even if the outer layer crumbles, like this test column. After an earthquake in 1971, Caltrans began reinforcing freeway sections like Cypress across California. But in 18 years, the faulty Cypress support columns were not included. This 1982 earthquake study for the governor's task force pointed out that in a quake of 8.3 magnitude, the elevated section through downtown Oakland is expected to be extensively damaged. But engineer David Rogers says the Cypress Viaduct was beyond repair.
Retrofits work if the design is marginally okay. This design, I think, the governor's consulting board that investigates it, and when their results come out, you're going to find that it was more than marginally unstable. It was quite a ways below marginal.
Now, since the 1970s, Caltrans estimates it's spent about $100 million reinforcing obsolete freeway structures like the Cypress. But that money was spent on putting additional steel bars in the road deck itself and tying the road deck to the support columns. None of that money has gone into reinforcing the actual concrete columns holding up the Cypress structure or freeways like it. I'm Dave. That's the latest. I'm Dave Bryan. Wendy, back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dave.
We'll be back in just a moment. Here is another Earthquake 89 snapshot.
The thing you try and do is just account for your family and sort of gather them all together, and thank God everybody's okay and nobody's hurt here.
You finally got everyone together. And with a little help from Noor, your first family reunion was a delicious success.
Here, use this spoon.
Noor's soup mix became a sumptuous dip.
Bring this out.
You topped the roast with a rich hunter sauce.
Ooh, risotto.
And the creme caramel was a perfect finale.
What's your favorite?
Make all your occasions special with Noor.
Taste this.
Noor, where taste is everything.
When you're 93, you can have just about anything you want.
So Emporium's having the biggest sale of the year. The 93rd birthday sale starts this Saturday. Big savings throughout the store. Big on fashion and value. Big selections in every department. Big because that's how Emporium thinks a sale should be. The 93rd birthday sale, the biggest sale of the year, starts this Saturday at Emporium.
Ever wish you could just get away from it all, even for a little while? On our next evening magazine, you can. We'll take you far, far away. To Hawaii to ride the waves with model windsurfers. To the wonders of Down Under.
Make sure you chew him up.
And the allure of the French Riviera. It's an evening of great escapes. Tonight at 7:30 on Channel 5.
Feel it, the magic is everywhere. The action, the style, the food, the flair. Play with us, stay with us, in Reno, stay Eldorado, and live the excitement. Eldorado, Reno, shining star, live the excitement.
A giant crack in the earth has been found in Los Gatos. Geologists were looking for the epicenter of the quake on Tuesday when they found that crack. And they also found a lot of people living on top of it. Or some people anyway. Abby Goldman standing by live in Los Gatos right now. Abby.
Wendy, I don't know who hasn't had a nightmare about an earthquake opening a crack in the ground and being swallowed up by it. Well, some people who live on Summit Road off of Highway 17, just above Los Gatos, nearly lived that on Tuesday night. They may have been living right on top of the epicenter of the earthquake, about 10 miles northeast of Santa Cruz, and just about three-quarters of a mile away from the 1906 break of the San Andreas Fault. Hard to believe, but because of an incredible stroke of luck, these people are actually laughing about their experience tonight. The
The 2.5-foot by 3-foot crack in the ground stretches a half-mile across the Santa Cruz Mountains. It begins at the front door of this 80-year-old house on Summit Road, continues down the driveway, across the street, and then runs up the hill on the other side. 68-year-old John Tranbarger and his wife Frida were in the hallway of their home when the earthquake hit.
It just sounded like the end of the world in the house, and everything was just crashing around, and the piano flew through the air, and I hit the piano and cut my head. I was all full of blood.
And I was thrown the opposite direction into the wall, and I received a cut and a big old bruise up here on my shoulder. We picked ourselves back up, and we started running for the door.
Tranbarger says he almost ran out that front door, but he couldn't budge it. It's a good thing, because there's this hole right outside. The couple managed to crawl out a window and was awestruck at the crack in the earth.
Well, I just couldn't believe it. You know, I saw the Buick was still there, and I was sorry about that, and I get rid of the Buick. Anyway, I couldn't believe it. And I thought, well, the first thing I did was crawl through the room to my insurance policy. I have earthquake insurance. I found that, and so I felt better.
As incredible as Tranbarger's sense of humor was the fact that his home survived with nary a cracked window, although everything inside of it was tossed around like a hurricane.
The width of the crack is, 1 meter.
Geologists poring over the site today measured and debated whether this was, in fact, the epicenter of the earthquake. They weren't sure, and why the home, now on the fissures' lip, had not crumbled into dust.
The thing that's surprising us all is that this is a small ground breakage for such a big earthquake. We had all expected to find really big offsets.
This crack in the earth runs from the Tranbarger house, crosses Summit Road, you can see where they have to repave here, and then runs up the hill for about a half a mile. It's the longest crack that geologists have found. It ran right through Linda Wollison's living room.
It certainly did go right through the house. There are ground disruptions right under the house, and the fireplace, of course, is in the house. I think we were lucky we weren't in the house when it happened.
The Wollison sense of humor was also intact, although visiting insurance inspectors did not bring the best news.
I don't know if we can fix these kinds of cracks, but what we can do is respond to their needs right now, and the most urgent need is housing and food and clothing, and that's what that's all what we're dealing with right now.
Linda's home may have to go, but neither she nor the Tranbargers are willing to move from here, despite the chasm that could have killed them.
If you go someplace else, I mean, what is there to say that something else won't happen?
The tranquility up here on a good day is worth it. This is not one of the good days.
Some good news, though, for these folks is that the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors today reactivated an old disaster ordinance that waives building permit fees, so these folks can start rebuilding right away without permits. The bad news, though, is that the county is now totaling up the damage. They say at least $500 million, and it may reach $1 billion by the time it's all added up. Reporting live from Santa Clara County, I'm Abby Goldman. Back to you.
Thank you, Abby. We'll be right back. Here's another Earthquake 89 snapshot.
Let's give me a break, too, okay? I'm not going over there. Off the sidewalk here. There's a fire in the back of this building and it's collapsed, okay?
A building, you know, like when they blow up the building, it drops and all it does. Whoa.
If you're running a small business, you need a phone company that works when you do.
Weekends are crazy. On top of everything, our phone system went down.
Or at least that never happens to us. We got a Centrex system from Pacific Bell. It's the most reliable one you can have.
Really? Maybe I'll call them on Monday.
Why not today?
They're open Saturday?
Sure, for businesses and residential customers. I didn't think anybody did that. Pacific Bell does.
At Pacific Bell, we're making things easier, even on Saturday.
Junior bacon cheeseburger tastes so fine. Wendy's got 7 for $99. I ain't telling you no lie. Biggie drink and biggie fries. Hot chili garden salad to go. Wendy's got 7 for $99. Cool frosty baked potato. Wendy's got 7 for $99.
Introducing the Super Value Menu from Wendy's. 7 big items for 99 cents each. A great selection, a great value. Try it today.
Wendy's got 7 for $99.
When I put on my heels for work, I know my nice, comfy cheetahs are here saying, na, 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 na. Too bad you can't wear us to work.
So when I get home, I get out of my heels and I put on these. Ooh, much better. Then I take them to aerobics to punish them for making fun of me. Na, 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 na.
Cheetah, only at Mervyn's for the clothes you love to live in.
During Hyundai's Full House Clearance, your dealer has a little number you'll never see again. 5224, a well-equipped Excel for just $52.24 after factory rebate, with variable intermittent wipers, rear defroster, room for 5, 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty, more standard features than any car in its class. It's the most affordable, best value in America, and we've got loads of them. So take a number.
See your Northern California Hyundai dealer today. Cashback incentives end November 2nd.
Geologists say this week's earthquake does not reduce the chances of another big quake in the next 30 years. But at a news conference in Menlo Park today, they did say they are less concerned about the chances for big aftershocks now.
Aftershocks are going to become less frequent. There will be a smaller chance of there being a strong aftershock as every hour passes by.
And the geologists say the odds of a really big aftershock between now and tomorrow morning are only 2%.
Brian Sussman joins us now. It's only a rumor to me. I hear that there was a fairly strong aftershock early this morning.
I slept right through it, as
So did I.
most of us, because we were just without sleep for so long. It didn't shake us, but I believe it was 5.2 on the Richter scale, about 3 a.m. or thereabouts. Yeah, things are still trembling. Of course, I have a lot of family in the Santa Cruz area, and many of my family and friends down that way have not returned back into their houses because the ground continues to shake.
Understandable.
And they're fearful.
What about the weather situation, Brian?
Well, it's a shame because at this point in time, weather has not been a factor. It's just been something we haven't had to worry about. And now it is changing. Let's go ahead. We'll go right to the satellite pictures.
Sure.
I'll put things into perspective for you. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Step on over with me. We do have a frontal system out in the Pacific. We'll talk about that. The front has in front of it some higher clouds at this time. You can see those. Those higher clouds do have some precipitation embedded within. We've seen a few isolated showers around the Fort Bragg area, but for the most part, again, these are just high clouds. They're not going to play into tonight's forecast. Things will change, however, when this frontal system, which has a good dose of cold, unstable air, it's almost a winter-type system, will come swinging through. We'll start seeing some precipitation near the Oregon border tomorrow afternoon, and then throughout the evening hours, it will skirt further south. Rain, light, scattered showers in the San Francisco area by, say, sunset tomorrow, and then down as far south as the Monterey Bay by tomorrow night. The bottom portion of this front will then shear off and swing just off the California coastline for Saturday and Sunday, which means the entire state should be seeing some scattered, light precipitation for Saturday and Sunday with cooler and windier conditions too. Now, for those watching on cable in the High Sierra, or maybe you're fortunate enough just to be able to get in a car and head out of the area this weekend, the snow level will be tomorrow night 8,000 to 9,000 feet. Then for Saturday and Sunday night, as low as 4,500 feet. Is it a major winter storm? No, but the computer charts that I have in my office are indicating that we'll see at least 0.6 of an inch of precipitation over the period. Maybe a little more. To be on the safe side, let's say less than an inch of rain out of this one. So it's just something that we have to add into the mix as we clean up and try to get back to some semblance of normality. Variable cloudiness in the works for tonight. Tomorrow evening showers spreading south with temperatures between 65 and 80 degrees. Temperatures will noticeably cool then over the weekend. We're talking about highs in the 50s and 60s. Not good because a lot of people are without power, electricity. Things will start getting back to normal Monday, just a few isolated showers, and then Tuesday, let's go with partly cloudy skies. That's what the weekend's looking like. I'll update things, of course, later on tonight.
The weather cooperating, that's what people are saying, that Monday is the time that a lot of people are going to start trying to get back to normal. Thanks, Sus.
Coming up, how to get help if you have lost your home or possessions to the earthquake.
We're on the Oakland Bay Bridge, just a little bit after the earthquake. They sent us down here, surprisingly, in the wrong direction. There's another car. Ooh. Gosh!
Hi, Ed. Hi, Brian. Sizzler for lunch? You bet. Good.
Sizzler introduces 3 new grilled lunch sandwiches, so why eat out of a bag or a styrofoam box?
Hi, Brian. Hi, Ed.
Hi,
Don. Sizzler for lunch again?
Yep.
Good.
Try our Santa Fe chicken sandwich, marinated fajita style, the Chicken Club with Swiss and bacon, or grilled sausage and onions. Hurry to Sizzler for new grilled lunch sandwiches.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Mike.
Sizzler for lunch. Good.
Can a diet including Mazola bring cholesterol down? Here's living proof.
When I found out my cholesterol was over 200, I got nervous. So I cut back on saturated fats and cholesterol and used Mazola.
A clinical study showed that Mazola corn oil was an important part of a lower-fat diet that reduced cholesterol an average of 17%.
With Mazola's help, I got my cholesterol down. I can live with that.
Mazola. Together we're beating cholesterol.
Near the epicenter of the '89 earthquake, a lot of people would be happy if they just had a roof over their heads. The demand for housing right now, incredible. The Red Cross has opened several emergency shelters. In Santa Cruz, people can go to the Messiah Lutheran Church or the Civic Auditorium. In Watsonville, there are shelters at Veterans Hall and the Armory. People in Boulder Creek can go to St. Michael's Church. In Capitola, the Red Cross Center is at the New Brighton Middle School. The Red Cross says it provided shelter for more than 700 people in Monterey County last night alone.
Once people get past the immediate problems posed by the devastating earthquake, they're going to want to start putting their lives back together. We've heard the Bush administration promise federal money for rebuilding will be available. The question is, how soon will that cash be on hand? Our money reporter, Craig Miller, gives us that part of the story.
How soon and still how much, we don't know, although the state's Office of Emergency Services did give us a number today, excluding a couple of counties down near Monterey. The total tab, they reckon $2.8 billion for everything. To us, from figures we've seen closer to home today, that looks a little low. The newest official estimate, $2 billion in damage to San Francisco alone. The mayor and governor came out of their half-hour meeting today with the same conclusion.
We need to have fast, efficient action once people start filling out the kind of applications that they need to in order to receive individual homeowner repair grants or small business loans.
But Mayor Agnos admitted that San Francisco is tapped out. The quake sucked up the city's roughly $6 million reserve fund in short order.
Oh, it's already done it. If you want to talk about our reserve, we've already used that up on paper. Our reserve was somewhere around $5.9 million. Our costs in the first 48 hours for just overtime alone in the emergency response for health, police, fire, and everyone else is eating that up, and we're in debt.
And even if the state drained its rainy day fund, $1 billion or so wouldn't be enough.
I have not ruled out the possibility of some kind of a temporary tax increase, if that is necessary, in order to raise the funds that are needed to bring the community back to normal operation.
In the meantime, the federal government will have to bridge the gap. From its regional office at the Presidio, the Federal Emergency Management Agency is still looking for places to set up shop around the Bay Area.
We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that are literally en route now, and we've activated every source that we have here in the Northern California area. So we're bringing the troops in that are necessary to get this job done.
The fact is the federal disaster relief system is still strained from trying to deal with the effects of Hugo back on the East Coast, which they say was bigger than this. But FEMA says, Mac, that it will start opening up walk-in assistance centers where you can apply for disaster relief personally starting on Sunday. Probably not before then. In any case, they have a hotline set up. You won't have to go to one of these places if you call this hotline and apply this way, and you can do this right now because it's supposedly operational. 1-800-462-9029. And briefly, what you can get are grants up to $10,000 if you qualify, SBA loans, temporary housing assistance, and unemployment compensation will be available. It's not going to happen overnight.
All right, thank you, Craig. We'll be right back with Wayne Walker right after this.
You don't have to shop at a tent sale for great new car deals. Visit your neighborhood Chrysler Plymouth dealer's special 89 sell-off for cool cars and hot, hot deals. Through October 31st, save big with special deals on every 89 Chrysler and Plymouth in stock. Save big on Chrysler LeBaron Coupe, on Colt GT imported for Plymouth, on sporty Plymouth Sundance, on most new 89 cars with factory rebates and special sell-off prices. But hurry, this 89 sell-off ends October 31st. So get to your nearby Bay Area Chrysler Plymouth dealer and buy one today.
There I was. The common cold. Even plenty of liquids didn't help.
Kretschmer wheat germ can't cure your cold, but it can give you a common cold cereal, a nutritious crunch.
I took 2 teaspoons and I'm better already.
My legs weren't exactly showgirl material, so bony and plain until...
Kretschmer wheat germ. It can't promise you gorgeous legs, but it can make your chicken more nutritious.
It's the lovelier me, and I'm no spring chicken.
Kretschmer, the heart of the wheat.
When I decided to become a superhero, since flying and being invisible were taken, I picked Jumpman. All I need is a great pair of jumping shoes. These help a lot. I figure they're good for about 1 trillion jumps. I can wear them anywhere, and no one knows my secret identity.
Cheetah, only at Mervyn's for the clothes you love to live in.
If you're going to Hawaii, you might miss the mystery or the moments. You might miss the warmth or the power or the legends. But we'll take you to up to 4 islands in 7 days. We're American Hawaii Cruises. We'll make sure you don't miss a thing.
Obviously, some important sporting events coming up as well, and Wayne here to update us on the situation with that.
Some important news about them, and I think people will want to know about. Late this afternoon, Baseball Commissioner Fay Vincent said plans to resume the World Series Tuesday at Candlestick Park remain on schedule. Game times are also the same as they would have been this week. Both the A's and Giants practice today, and we have reports on both clubs.
If not for the sound of jackhammers already working to repair the minor damage at Candlestick Park, today's activity at the stick might have been like something you'd see in spring training. Giant manager Roger Craig put his team through an intra-squad game to keep his players somewhat sharp for Tuesday's expected resumption of the World Series. Things may change by Tuesday, but right now, no one in the Giants is in too much of a World Series mood.
If there's devastation so much so that Tuesday comes around and they don't feel that it's right to play the game of baseball, I'm all for that.
While the Giants fully realize how the importance of baseball pales in comparison to the events of the last 3 days, they also feel the World Series could become something of a catharsis.
Come Tuesday might be something that's going to be good for the community, good for Oakland and San Francisco, maybe to get things rolling and play the series and start it up. Hopefully, we just have to wait and see.
That's part of healing, is to come out and watch the great American tradition. And this is something people, you know, that's the first big earthquake in a long time here. And also, this is the first big, first World Series here in a long time. So, you know, I think Mother Nature took something away from us, but, you know, the Bay Area Series is still here. It's still going on.
While the Giants held their first workout since the earthquake today at Candlestick, the A's did the same today at the Oakland Coliseum. And Rick Kwan has that story.
A mood of depression hung over the A's practice today, but the players we spoke to agreed with the decision to try and resume the series on Tuesday.
At one time or another, these games are going to be played again, and as professionals, we have to get ready to go out and do the best we can.
I think by waiting a week and seeing how things develop throughout the city, I think it'll be all right. But if we would have played it right away, I would have said no way.
With the memory of Tuesday's disaster still vivid, there were varied reactions about returning to Candlestick.
I don't think my wife's going. I don't think. I don't know. From what I heard, a lot of the wives don't want to go. A lot of the wives went through a traumatic time.
If you ever have a bad situation or are afraid of something, you have to go back and do it. And so I think once you get there, once we get our BP and stuff like that, I think it'll break a lot of the anticipation of the ballpark.
In light of the team's concern about the earthquake, the A's today agreed that even if they do win the World Series, there will be no champagne celebration and probably no victory parade. at the Oakland Coliseum. Rick Kwan, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
Ricky Henderson missed the athletics workout, but Oakland manager Tony La Russa said he wasn't upset by Henderson's absence. The 49ers will meet New England Sunday, a change of venue, Sunday at Stanford Stadium at 1 o'clock. The players and head coach told me today are not opposed to that decision. And there's tickets for that one because Stanford holds 20,000 more than Candlestick, and you can get tickets at the game. You can get tickets now at Candlestick for the 49ers game, and it's first come, first served basis if you get your ticket and sit down at the stadium. And the 49ers will donate money to the Bay Area Relief Fund for the earthquake. On the promise they make over those extra tickets.
Healing, I think, the important message in all of those sports stories. And also important to remember, though, even though we have some horrible disaster areas here, wide expanses of the Bay Area have not been touched. Sure. So thanks a lot, Wayne.
Coming up, how you can lend a helping hand to the people who lost their homes in the earthquake.
Why does it seem like there's never a business class seat when you need one? Am I taking the wrong flights?
TWA has nearly 3 times as many domestic flights with business class as all other airlines combined.
Ah, I was taking the wrong airline.
Upgrade and free. 2 of my favorite words.
In TWA's frequent flight bonus program, you can get unlimited free upgrades to business class after flying just 5,000 miles. Today's TWA. Find out how good we really are.
Emporium's having the biggest sale of the year. Save 25 to 50% at the 93rd birthday sale, starting this Saturday at Emporium.
Dodge announces the best, our biggest ever sale on trucks, with the biggest cashback savings ever on our most popular pickups. Get a ton of money on half-ton pickups. $2,000, 89s and 90s. But see your Dodge dealer's best right away. I don't know how long we can keep this up.
There's only one place to get our best. See your Bay Area Dodge dealer today.
Most of the people in the Bay Area have never witnessed an earthquake like last Tuesday's, but there's a group of Armenian children in the Bay Area right now who are all too familiar with big earthquakes. They lived through 2 of them all in 1 year, and if you remember, we were told early on that the intensity of this earthquake is about equal to the intensity of the earthquake that rocked Armenia. Dr. Nancy Snyderman has more.
He remembered his home and how it came down crumbling, so he got scared.
The devastation in Armenia is still fresh in their minds. Many of these children lost parents, brothers, and sisters. Their lives were spared, but they suffered broken bones and life-threatening infections. They found help in San Francisco.
This program is basically the fruit of the community effort of all San Francisco, actually. And the Armenian community has organized a group of physicians and community people to go out to Armenia and bring some of these children that need further rehabilitation.
The children received their medical care at the Shriners Hospital in San Francisco and live in the homes of Armenian families in the Bay Area. They knew life would be an adjustment during their stay in the United States, but no one expected this.
Most of the kids actually were very scared when the strong shaking was going on, but they soon were relieved, it seems, once the buildings did not collapse, and today pretty much they're comfortable with their feelings. She's not afraid, she says.
That's great. Despite their bravery and their knowing that they will soon be returning to a very different Armenia, it's still home.
Yes, she does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
La Victoria. Lee, that's all you ever talk about. No way La Victoria is better than our picante sauce.
Want to bet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look. Maybe La Victoria is a little bit thicker.
Now grab a taste.
This La Victoria salsa tastes fresh. Quiet.
La Victoria salsa really is thicker and fresher. You can bet on it.
I told you not to bet him.
Buy La Victoria. It's the best salsa. You can bet on it.
Some things work great together. Others don't. But
But the taste of Kentucky Fried Chicken and corn is a natural. Right now, enjoy the great taste of chicken and corn and all the fixes for just $2.69. 2 pieces of juicy chicken, a tender cobblet of corn, mashed potatoes with gravy, and a fresh buttermilk biscuit, just $2.69. There's only one place for that original recipe chicken taste. Kentucky Fried Chicken, for the great tasting combination of chicken and corn.
Cross the road, Jack. Well, Kentucky Fried Chicken's got more.
Cross the road, Jack.
Satisfaction. 2 words set Big O tires apart.
Complete satisfaction.
That's why every 8 seconds of every business day, another Big O tire is sold.
Your satisfaction.
Millions of satisfied customers know that dedicated Big O owners and employees get the job done right.
For complete satisfaction, Big O Tires is the one. Customer satisfaction, second to none.
The first night, I stayed in this great hotel. The next day, I put this foot where no human had ever walked before.
She is the mystery.
See things fresh for the first time.
She is Alaska, Alaska. Alaska is her name, Alaska.
Channel 5 will devote most of its airtime tonight to more coverage of the earthquake aftermath. The CBS Evening News is coming up next. At 8 o'clock, 48 hours, we'll take an in-depth look at the tragic events of the last few days. We will have a special edition of Eyewitness News at 10 o'clock, followed immediately by Nightcast at 11. And of course, we will be on the air whenever there's breaking news as the Bay Area continues its rescue and recovery efforts.
Earthquake victims face a long, difficult road to recovery. You can help them along the way. KPIX and our network of Take the Time for Kids' Sake stations around the country have set up an earthquake relief fund. To make contributions to friends and neighbors, you can send your checks in any amount to Heart of the Bay Earthquake Relief Fund, Post Office Box 2655, San Francisco. The zip code is 94126. Please make your checks available to the American Red Cross. If you'd like to know more about the fund, we have some numbers you can call. Our viewer-friendly information lines are 765-8779 and 765-8780. We have one more number for you. Channel 5 has established a hotline for people who want information about which schools are open, which are closed in the Bay Area during this time of crisis, and that number is 765-8609.
And that's it for this edition of Eyewitness News. We hope that you and yours are safe tonight. I'm Wendy Takuda.
And I'm Dave McElhatton. We'll see you back here shortly for an earthquake update.
Bye-bye.